But despite that, it is incredibly interesting, and there are so many avenues that you can dive into and considerations that don't immediately spring to mind when you read these texts. So one, for example, that I hadn't even really thought about until I read your book was about the list of appearances that we're told about. We're told that Jesus appears to Peter. We're told that he appears to the 12. We're told, in a few narrative cases, we're told about the road to Emmaus, doubting Thomas. And what struck me is when you pointed out that Peter, who is the most important of the apostles of Jesus, or at least of the original 12 disciples, and presumably will have had one of the most important, maybe even one of the first visions of Jesus. Every time the appearance to Peter is mentioned, it's just kind of brushed over. Of course, Paul famously says that he appeared to Cephas as part of his whole scheme, but that makes sense. He's just listing names. But even in the gospel accounts, it's just something that's mentioned. And interestingly as well, at the end of Mark's gospel, the short ending, before you have the stuff that was added on later, you have this instruction to go and tell Peter and the disciples. Whereas when it gets to Matthew's gospel, the angel says, go and tell the disciples. It doesn't specify Peter. So what do you think's going on with Peter and the appearance to Peter specifically in the resurrection narratives?
So if I had to bet, I wouldn't bet against 1 Corinthians 15:3 and following. Paul, I think, is passing on a tradition, and I see no reason to doubt it. And Paul himself in Galatians indicates that he spent time with Peter, so he must know some things about Peter. I have a suspicion, of course you can't prove it. There have been all sorts of theories. Maybe later maybe there was something in the account that was regarded as heretical, for example, and so it dropped out. There are all sorts of possibilities here. But one possibility, which I don't think I've ever found in the literature, but it seems to be a good possibility, is that Peter had a vision of Jesus or saw him briefly, and that was it. That is, nothing was said, and there was no story to tell. That is, he appeared to Peter would be the end of the narrative. So it's nothing from which you could have a story develop. Now, one of the things I do in my book is I take seriously these reports from all times and places of people having encounters with the newly departed, thinking that somebody has come back and that they see this person. Well, most of them are brief, and most of them don't involve any verbal communication. So if Peter had a vision or something like a vision, there wouldn't be any story.